All right, guys. Welcome back. We are going to get started now. So, just to recap, the lesson in the morning was that we should use at least a prompt template. That's one takeaway lesson. The second takeaway lesson was use instructor. I don't think I emphasized that part enough. So, I'll show it to you in the code. Somebody asked, so where did we use the instructor in this code base? Um, let's go back and look at it. If you look, for example, at glossary, you will notice that I have these three classes here. One is important terms. This is a pedantic model. It contains all the important terms, a list of important terms. Glossary term is the definition of a term and its definition. Then a glossary is obviously made up of glossary terms. So these were the three pedantic models. How did we use it? Let's go and look at it. If you look at the build for term, this contains the bulk of the code. You will notice that we are saying, you see this term, this line response model is equal to oh, come again. Oh, I'm not sharing. I apologize. Sorry. Then I'll repeat what I said. I apologize. So in the morning, I probably didn't emphasize the role of instructor very much. So I'll just do a very quick review. So one lesson that we took away is writing a detailed prompt helps. Following some templating framework, we follow CoStar, but with adaptations, but not the strict one. We have role, style, goal, and all of that in our prompt. Like for example, here we go. We have somewhere here we have CoStar simple glossary. Okay, we will come to that in a moment. Let me close the documentation and go to prompts. So if we just look at glossary, a naive prompt simply says create a glossary of terms in prompt engineering. More involved prompt, as we notice, had many more parts to it for the glossary, isn't it? And after doing that, we asked to do refinements. So we had a pretty extensive thing for refinement. So now let's go and look at the actual code. The data model for this was three classes: important terms, list of important terms, glossary term, and the glossary itself. So let's see how the glossary builder behaved. The way the glossary builder behaved is, besides loading the term, the bulk of the code is from line 110 to 134. So let's see what it is doing. You're logging it, you're going to it, you're invoking the instructor. So one thing to do, if you look at the instructor, you won't be able to tell that this is not your typical OpenAI call. The API looks almost identical. Go ahead, Prakash. 20 plus terms. Yeah, that is right. That is right. Yeah. So at this moment, you just get it from the parametric memory of GPT-4 or whichever model you're using. But as we make progress with this course, we won't be doing that. We will be using searching the webs. See, most of these big LLMs will give you almost the same answers. Right? So for example, if you try this with Llama, the big Llama, and yeah, No, no, if you ask for 20, it will give you 20. All of them will give you 20. They will differ. So everybody's definition of top 20 will differ. In fact, with this, even with OpenAI, you make the same call again and its top 20 will be slightly different, right? So it is a little bit unstable. So which is why the other prompting techniques, remember, we have lots of techniques to learn. So what is one good way to do it? Ask it for the top 20 lots of times and then make a frequency table of which terms keeps coming back in every list, right? Yeah. Yeah. KQ? No, no, no. That's different. That's the internal implementation. No. We are saying, given a LLM, whatever it is, take the LLM, don't tamper with it. Prompting just means we are going to talk to it in a smarter way without tampering with it. So we are not fine tuning the LLM, we are not changing its internals, we are just talking to it in a smarter way. That's what prompting is. Oh, that, yeah. So look at that. Yeah, yeah. Oh, see, that is a little bit more involved linguistically. It has to do with the fact, it's a very good question, actually, what you ask. Give me a moment, I'll sit down. I'm a bit tired. So, see, first, there is the empirical evidence. You can see that if you give prompts like that, the language that it uses is very different. It will use a 10-year-old's language, it will use a scholarly language, whatever you ask it to. Now, how is it able to do? We actually only partly understand. For example, we do know that these LLMs, they have a theory of the mind. What it means is, theory of the mind was supposed to be unique to human beings. Like when we talk to each other, we have some understanding of how much you understand and how you think. So, in other words, I have a theory of your mind, and that helps me communicate with you efficiently. There is fairly convincing evidence that these LLMs, by reading the prompt, they develop a theory of the mind, and that helps them respond. So, when you give it a clue by saying, imagine that you're talking to a 12-year-old, you're literally telling it what theory of the mind to form. Right? That's one piece of the puzzle. It's not fully understood how all of this happens. The other part of the puzzle is that we, recent evidence has showed that these machines have internal concepts, right? They actually form world concepts very much like the human mind does. This was a research done at Anthropic, and with remarkable thing, you dissect a model and internally you find there's a concept of the golden gate, there's a concept of flattery, for example. You amplify the flattery concept, the psychopathy concept, and it will start praising you in every response. Right. So there is a lot happening inside an LLM that we don't understand because what we download are just weights. Nobody fully understands how these LLMs think. Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. No. See, when you go to the prompting guide, the comprehensive guide that I pointed you to, it is a fairly good inventory of all that we know. See, prompting has had close to 3,000 or 4,000 research papers on it. So you can imagine how big this field has become in just a couple of years. Uh, the, the, that prompting guide portal is a good place to begin. It actually doesn't contain all the advanced stuff. In this course, we'll go much further, but it's a very, very well done prompting guide. And every technique that is mentioned there has practically become mainstream for people using it. So, as you learn from that prompting guide, the question you should ask is, Am I using all of this? Which of these are appropriate in my context? Are we together? So what we are doing is we are making small steps, like, from a naive prompt to a prompt in which we have at least a template last time, to a prompt that uses instructor. And then we added one more technique today, self-criticism, isn't it? Right. Now, we will add more. Today, I'll teach, we will go over the papers on chain of thought. And as we go over this, it will keep getting better and better, right? The same thing you can do in a much better way. Like, for example, um, in the other class, we are using agentic reasoning to do this exercise. And obviously, the impact of doing that is dramatic, right? So we will go, as I said, we'll go step by step and see, guys, this is for text, but if you just as an interjection, look at this image. How many of you can tell that this is not real? Looks pretty realistic, isn't it? It is a prompt, right? So the power of prompt, you're prompting a diffusion model with a transformer in there to produce something absolutely amazing, isn't it? So all of this is there. We'll make small progress in the text and the multimodal domain as we make progress in this course. Right? So, all right. So let's look at this main method, which I said starts at line 110, built for term. What do? You give it the first prompt to get you one version of it. And what is the response model? A glossary term, isn't it? And then what do? You do a self-criticism phase in which you give it the same term all over again, and it goes and improves upon that term, right? Yeah. Oh, that role and the prompt role are two different things. See, the way these people expect, OpenAI expects, is that they want two prompts, system prompt and the user prompt. So, and they use the word role. That's all. It just happens to be. It's very different from the way we mean role in the prompt itself. So yeah, that's an interesting nuance. So that is that, guys. Likewise, if you go back to the business plan, there is a prompt for the outline. Just to get the outline, there's a pretty long prompt. I'll let you read it. Then there's a prompt for getting each business section, right? So that it finally makes a business plan. And the business plan it makes is very, very long. Now, one thing you notice, you can't get such a long output from a LLM in one shot, right? Or at least you used to not. Gradually, over time, that may become possible. But as of today, LLM, even though theoretically it can give you very long outputs, it tends not to, right? So one good way is to break it up into sections. What's another advantage of breaking it up into sections? As you will learn, what you could do is, see, in reality, when you do a business plan, one person doesn't sit down and write it. It will be a partnership, right? There will be a person with marketing expertise. There'll be a person who will be good with numbers, who will make a financial plan, cash flow analysis, right? One will be good with business development and will do strategic and competitive analysis and product market fit and so forth. So, and then there'll be the engineer who will be saying, now, wait a minute, guys, let me think whether I can actually build it, right? So it's an interplay between different people that you bring about a business plan, let's say for a startup, right? So the natural evolution of this is you not only have a section done separately, but you would rather have the LLM wear a different hat, right? CFO hat when doing the cash flow analysis, accounting hat, right? When you're doing a marketing plan, you want it to be a marketer. When it does engineering stuff, a feasibility study, you want it to wear an engineer's hat. So actually, I think that's random. So you put on these different roles, and that natural progression is the progression into AI agents, but we won't be doing it here. Right. We'll come to that much later. Anyway, I'll close the chapter on this. So where was the co-star thing? Where was the instructor thing coming? It was literally in the response model, isn't it? Look at this line, response model. This is where you put your pydantic class, response model in both the cases. That's it. Are we together, guys? Right. So with that, we'll close up on this. And any questions before I move further? I would like to then go over to back to the course portal and so you have these two documents. I hope you got a chance to read the Old Faithful. Right? Just review it carefully. It's worth reviewing it. And then I want you to also from here, remember that this is the reading material. This prompting guide is really very good. Learn all about it. Today, I'll start with chain of thought, and we'll read the chain of thought paper. Are we together, guys? We'll read this paper. Now, this chain of thought paper is, where is this? Let's go to the chain of thought paper. I think it is there. I apologize. I've made a mess of the site. At this moment, some things are in LLM2 and some things are still in LLM1. Okay, it is there. It is there. Yeah. And on the course portal also it is there. So we are going to do actually three interesting papers, chain of thought, tree of thought, and the simulacra paper. Right? Simulacra is literally an example of excellent prompting. Anyone remembers this paper? I was being to yeah. So we will do this. But before I do that, I'll do a very simple paper, the chain of thought. So people often call it the COT paper. It was actually a very interesting discovery by some young folks at Google. And let's go there and see what it says. Have again? Yeah. So let's figure out what this paper is saying. What I'll do is I'll start a new recording for this paper so that it becomes a video in